Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug.Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and today we're talking to Cody Yerk, and he emailed me a few weeks ago about a brand new site, a brand new domain in the health niche that went from about zero, well, of course, zero visitors when it started to about 15K visitors in like 3 to 4 months. It is a pretty interesting site. We'll actually be able to share it and reveal it and hear how Cody got this site started and some of his philosophies around growing niche sites, creating them, and building a team of writers. So Cody, how's it going today?
It's going good. It's going good. Glad to be on, Doug.
It's very cool. And we potentially could have done this in person, but we're not, just because convenience and all that stuff. But you're just down the road in Boulder, right?
Yep, just down the road in Boulder, Colorado. I actually thought about that last night. I had mentioned to a friend, and he's like, "Oh, are you driving over there?" And I'm like, "Huh, we maybe could have done something like that, but these days
Yeah.
it's easier, everything online."
Yeah, and it's the studio's just right there. So technically it was possible, but yeah, for most of the time I end up doing a lot of these remote and it's just a little more convenient. But maybe next time for the update. So, well, let's hear about your background a little bit. I mean, I don't know you that well. So, what do you currently do? Are you working on sites full time? And then maybe you could tell us about like any previous work that you've done professionally in the past.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not full time. I guess by day you would say
Sure.
I'm a senior security analyst at a tech company, doing mostly IT security for government, other big tech companies, things like that. And then, yeah, by night, everyone calls them niche sites these days. When I started, they were authority sites, we called them. So I kind of stick with that. But yeah, years ago, I'd worked at a marketing agency, heading up their SEO department. And before that, I just kind of always had an interest with building websites online. And that just transitioned into SEO. I took a break for a while. And then about 4 months ago, decided to kind of jump back into this and approach it a bit differently.
Cool. And then when was it when you started building, quote authority sites?
I want to say 2009, 2010 was when I started. I was still in high school at the time. And I had come across through a friend, someone that was making money in the affiliate marketing space, and it kind of piqued my interest. I had no idea what it was. And I got real into, there was a forum back then. It's somewhat shuttered now, but it was called Wicked Fire,
Okay.
where people would talk about building these sites and monetization and things like that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. 2009. That's earlier. I thought you were going to say like 2016 or 17 or something like that. So, and I haven't even heard of that forum that you're talking about. It's like it predates whatever, like Warrior Forum or the Black Hat, whatever. I
Yeah,
never.
a little smaller than those, a little more niche, but yeah, it was when those were big.
Okay. And then, so you've got into this stuff in high school. So did you have any sites back then that worked out for you? Any early successes?
I did. I sold a website with who was it? It was FEI, Flipping Enterprises International, and that was, I think, 39,000 is what I exited for. And it was, I mean, I was 19 years old, so that I
Yeah.
thought I was getting rich. Turns
Yeah.
out you can blow through that blow through that very quickly if you're not responsible.
Yeah. No
But
kidding.
yeah, I kind of started just with my interest. I had sites, several sites I've had in the IT security space around kind of removing malware from your computers. I did a lot of affiliate deals with antivirus software and things like that.
Got it. Pretty cool. And then, so you got into IT security. So what degree, or if you went to college, what path did you go down to get into IT security?
Sure. I never went to college.
Okay.
It purely, I think, some people have it where it's just like they want to figure things out. I for sure want to figure things out. I got my degree from Google, I guess you could say,
Sure.
and just a curiosity to learn things. But
Okay.
yeah, just kept building up more and more experience. I think there was crossover between the SEO and the security type of stuff.
Cool. All right. So it sounded like you took a little break from niche sites from the early days. So when did you get back into it? And do you have some other sites before we get into the one that we're focusing on today?
Yeah, I kind of uh, half-assed it.
Hmm.
I would say, um, I would build a site. I'd have an idea. I'd get real excited about it and kind of go at it for a month, and then I would sit and wait, which I think is a big problem. That okay, let's see if this works, or let's just focus on this one keyword. Best antivirus 2020. Um, and I think that was a big kind of problem with my approach. I flipped them at a profit, nothing crazy as far as selling them. And then I think 4 months ago, I just decided, let's approach this totally differently. Let's kind of build systems and let's see how big I could scale this. And instead of setting goals where it's like, okay, well, let's rank for this and let's make, $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month. Let's put requirements down, like let's post one article per day, and things like that. And I think from that, your goals start getting realized along the way.
Perfect. Yeah, there's a book by Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator, called, I always forget the exact name, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, something like that.
Mhm.
But he talks about systems over goals. So you still have to come up with like some direction you're aiming in. You have to come up with a goal, but then you just translate it back into the system that you're talking about, where it's not something where you look at the lagging indicator, the results, you're looking at the leading indicator. You're trying to publish a lot of content, or, just have a system, create output, like ship consistently or whatever it is. And often it's
Really.
easier to move forward because, like you said, you're not doing some work and then waiting for the results. You're doing the work and the results usually follow if you're doing the right steps. So
Totally.
very cool. Okay. So 4 months ago, so you were dabbling, you would create some sites, you'd sell them. It was kind of fun. You're doing it in the evening away from your day job. And then you decided a few months ago, hey, let's try something different. So it's in the health niche, and you mentioned that you were willing to reveal the site. So if you want to mention it and then tell us why you wanted to aim in that niche area, especially, it's your money or your life. It sounds like you don't have the specific credentials in like the health area. So tell us about this site.
Sure. Yeah, I've always liked creating sites. I'm sure most people, it's like they think about what do they like or what's their kind of interest currently, and kind of go after that because it's what you know. I had a few health scares, health issues, and decided to kind of make some changes. I lost over like 100 pounds since August. And so health has just been a big thing. And I'm like, I think I could cover some of these topics a little better. And it's something that I'm researching and looking at every day. Um, I jumped into it. Was definitely pros and cons to choosing the health niche. What I've definitely learned is you can be successful in whatever area you choose. I don't think people should let that be a barrier for starting. You could pick anything and see success. But yeah, I started the website May 1st. I launched it, I believe, lindyhealth.com, lindy.health.com. And my thing is I like to build sites that are very like legitimate. A lot of people will just grab kind of a blog theme and just start throwing articles up, and they're all the latest articles are just pulled into the homepage. I like to kind of build like a service around them, a real company around them. I always grab an address. I rent an address in town, phone numbers through like the premium Google Voice or, whatever you want. And I kind of built a service around the idea that I would refer people that are looking to build teams to kind of change their lifestyle as far as health or get improvements, because I had built this team personally of, I found a nutritionist, I found a personal trainer, and I'm like, there was nothing really out there that provided all of those kind of as a package. So I'm like, would that be a great business idea? And it started as that. And then I got back into watching the podcasts and some videos on SEO, yourself, niche pursuits, a little bit of niche website builders. So I started kind of going at the blog there and adding more and more content. And that quickly took over after a month. It's like, okay, this is kind of the main business outside of the front end of it. And yeah.
Got it. Well, congrats on losing that weight. So in about a year, you lost 100 pounds. Is that what you said?
Yeah, about 9 months.
Holy shit. That's crazy, man. Can you just talk about the process a little bit? I mean, it must have been it felt like an insurmountable task in the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Number one, which is hard to do in Colorado sometimes, I quit drinking totally, which is a lot of empty calories. And outside of that, just tracking what I'm eating and then not eating anything processed. So, meat, vegetables. And it was really as easy as that. It melted off.
Really? Yeah.
Which, there's some crossover to SEO where it's like, it's very simple to do and people overcomplicate, the living hell out of it. But if you just do these few simple things every day, you can get there. No problem.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, it is tough to not drink. And I just listened to Andrew Huberman. Do you listen to that podcast, Huberman Lab?
No, I'm not sure if I listened to that one. I'll have to add it to the list.
So it's a very nerdy podcast. This guy is a neuroscientist. His podcasts are pretty much like lectures that he gives. So it's extremely dense. Any fact that he mentions has like multiple references to journal studies. But anyway, he was talking about basically how bad alcohol is. Like it's literally a poison to your body, to most of the cells in your body, and just all these awful things. There's a couple benefits, but it's very small. So right. It is, I am exploring my drinking or my relationship with drinking alcohol, just because it is it can be a very negative thing. There's some positives, mostly social, but man,
totally.
It'll be tough. So congrats on all that stuff. And going back to the site, so you realized, hey, you put together this team that helped you get things back in order, lose the weight, get healthy, and you didn't see that service out there. So is that the main monetization of the site?
That was the goal, but no, it's not the main monetization of the site. The main monetization came back to the standard, where it is affiliate deals is the majority of it for specific products. Some of that's through affiliate networks. Some of that's direct deals with the brands. A little bit of display, which I've reverted to AdSense now. I was turned down by Azoic. It turns out that they're not big on the health space, which I didn't know or think about. Okay. And for all these years, I never did really any display. I saw I think, a better return with the affiliate type of monetization method, but kind of with this being more of an informational approach, it's a little bit harder to monetize when there's kind of no buyer intent from the keywords. So I'm starting kind of with the display and AdSense. Right now, I have a couple pages that are doing like $8 RPMs, which I think is decent for AdSense. I don't know.
Sure.
Some lower than that. So, it's something I don't know if I'm going to continue with the display. What I do like about it is I'm always looking at who's advertising on my site through AdSense or, through the display network. And then I just go out and find affiliate deals that are maybe a little bit more targeted than those ads. And then I'm running ads for free. Got it. And, if you get like kind of one or two sales, that's often more than the display revenue for Perfect. That page.
So, and when you take a look at the ads that are running on a specific page, do you do anything special, like go to an incognito window or use a VPN to see, what another user might see, or any special things you have to do?
I probably should do more as far as like, using a VPN and stuff. I'll use an incognito browser for sure. That's not logged into any of my Google accounts, but I know they still do some form of targeting. But you can kind of get some general ideas of, because I have some pages where I'm like, I have no idea how I would monetize this, but what's related to it. But then you get a couple ideas. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And you mentioned Ezoic doesn't deal with the health-related sites. Do you know if some of the other display networks do?
Yes, I've seen. I think it's AdThrive that does do them. I looked through their. It's been mentioned a few times, but they have their advertising list as like a JSON file. Where it shows all of the publishers, or publisher file rather, but all of the publishers on AdThrive. And there are definitely some health websites on there. So that's something I'm going to look at once I hit, is it 25 or 50,000 organics? Yeah, just to kind of see what that looks like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the initial idea was the service, and I guess there are different coaches and professionals that you can set up with people. And these days, they could probably be anywhere in the country or the world, and they have Zoom calls and they get coaching remotely. So, do you think that can be a route in the future, even though, your blog's still pretty young? So how do you feel about it? Do you think you'll be able to develop that area?
Yeah, I think so. I know a lot of people in the health space, not necessarily the online health space, but as far as setting up deals with them, I think that's for sure possible. But something I am looking at is kind of, what's my bandwidth? Do I have the amount of time and kind of headspace to fully focus on that, or am I better off just kind of sticking with the affiliate / display model, and scaling these websites up? So it's kind of up for debate, but I am leaving it there as part of the website, and hopefully I can just kind of build out a system for those leads that I get, where I could just charge per lead or something like that, and sell that as a nice package. So. Yeah, we'll see.
Are you able to share the revenue of the site, which it's okay if you don't, because you did tell us what the site is. So I don't want to put you in a position where it makes the site vulnerable, but if you want to share anything, now's the time.
Sure. Yeah. In the last 30 days, I'm at just under $1,700.
Okay.
Which the majority of that is from affiliate deals, like I said, a few in a specific area that, if anyone out there wants to dig in far enough, they might be able to tell, but I don't want to just throw that out there.
Sure.
The specific products.
Got it. So the site's about 4 months old and you hit $1,700 basically.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very good. Obviously, ahead of the curve for what, we hear from a lot of people, but I think it's worth it to point out, Cody, like you've been building sites for a lot of years and you knew what you were doing. You kind of know what to expect, and a lot of things that don't work, a lot of things that do work, but congratulations. It's a great trajectory.
Yeah. And part of that is luck. But I also believe a lot of luck is putting yourself in the position to be lucky. As far as, I had a few keywords that ended up where people are buying some products that are high dollar amount per sale. But yeah, I'm really looking to the future to growing it into, a much bigger website.
Perfect transition. So let's talk about keyword research here. So what was your approach there in general?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my my approach has always been find the low hanging fruit, which I think a lot of people say, and it's kind of the first obvious thing to do. Let's find some keywords that have good volume, low competition, and go after them. But like as far as, how do you actually do that? I'll look at a lot of my competitors, and that's kind of on a per keyword topic cluster basis, because, who are your competitors? That's a harder question, I think, than it first appears to be. But I'll look, okay, who's ranking with me in these keywords? Let's throw their domain into SEMrush, and let's see what keywords they're looking for. And then usually I'll search on like keyword difficulty, which is it's not 100%. It's not even a great indicator most of the times, but it gives you kind of a baseline of, okay, there's a lot of search volume here, low difficulty. And then let's look at the actual Google search page for that keyword. Who's ranking there? Is Healthline at the top? If Healthline's there, if it's a bunch of Mayo Clinic and government websites or university websites, I stay out of it. And then I like unintentional rankings where somebody will be in the top like 3 positions, top 5 positions for a keyword that they're not targeting in an article. And you see a lot of that. And then I'll go and just make an article that specifically targets that keyword, lengthy, in-depth, clear, and can kind of pick off some keywords that way. But you never know. This whole game is testing. And you might have an idea. You might see, okay, based on my research, this is a good way to go. You have to keep throwing things at the wall and just scaling up, and up. And it's never what you expect. People say it all the time. It'll be, some crappy article that you think will never rank, and you're just kind of trying to do the work day in and day out and fill up your keyword planner or your content planner. And it ends up ranking, and you're getting, 500 visits a day or something for, and in the search volume showing 200 a month from Google. So you never know.
Totally. Very good. And anything else keyword wise?
I guess another part of that, with my whole theme of how can we build repeatable processes, so I'll find I can give an example of this for this other website that I've started around kind of the DIY 3D printed. I don't even know if I want to hit on it exactly, but laws regarding a certain type of item. So you find a general topic, like let's look at, say, trying to think of something good for YouTube here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you don't have to give a specific example that you're working on, of course, but yeah, if you genericize it, that could be good.
Okay. Yeah, I guess a better one from the Lindy Health side of things. It was kind of like, how can I find articles and keywords that I can continue to go after? And it's kind of easy to scale up with it. So one I did was profiles of different bodybuilders or CrossFitters or Instagram influencers. I'm sure a lot of people have seen those like net worth websites, where you look up what's Bruce Willis's net worth, tons of search volume, and it's some, automated scraper site that's ranking for all those. But I just kind of do it for kind of niche down a little bit for my industry. So like bodybuilders and CrossFitters, health type people. And then, I can build out like a standard operating procedures. So I want you to answer all of these questions. And here's how you grab the Google auto suggest keywords. Here's how you grab the FAQs from that Google search page. So I could just send that to writers, and they could come up with a great article that's hitting all of those unique keywords for that person. And, and those are really easy to find because, I just look up who are all these different people that have some influence in the space that people want to know about. And you can kind of scale up that way instead of trying to find a whole new topic, a new keyword. Who's going to buy on this? Is there competition?
Right.
It makes it easier.
Cool. And I'll throw in another example and you could tell me if I have the right idea, Cody. So I always give examples with cameras because there's lenses and I'm looking into a camera right now. So how to take a picture of a baby, a dog, a cat, the stars, like fill in the blank, like product photos, guitars, whatever. So is that the same kind of idea where you get a theme and then you could kind of scale it in a, find 80 keywords on that one thing?
Yeah, I would say that's totally it. It's nice if you can kind of make it to where they're each more different. I don't know. I get a little nervous sometimes about too templated of stuff, but it's finding that sweet spot and it's finding what works for you. And
Sure.
it is as far as saying that, I would say don't not do something because you're scared of Google. I think it's better to pump stuff out than to be like, oh, I don't know what Google thinks about this. You got to test.
Yep. And, the week that we're recording this, it is when Google's rolling out the helpful content update. So I've said this for a few years, luckily, where like if we have a question that's kind of complicated with SEO, you have 3 or 4 options. Like, which one do you do? Like, if you just forget about the SEO for a second and just like think about the visitor, what they're looking for, how to solve their problem, go with that. And then, like you're saying, just test it, see what happens. If you think of the visitor, like it's either going to work out. If Google doesn't like it, at least it makes sense from like that searcher standpoint. You're answering their question and maybe Google will catch up with it later, but you're thinking of the visitor, which is that's what Google wants us to do anyway. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to just keep moving. And, I think a lot of people that are talking about, the Google updates constantly, it's, there's either a profit motive there, that's their job. They cover SEO news and what's trending. The other people I think are people that don't even necessarily have websites and that are using this as some mental blocker of maybe I shouldn't start in this niche. Maybe I shouldn't do this because of Google. It's like saying I want to run a marathon. I want to become a runner, but I don't know if I want to go outside today because there's a lot of buses out. I might get hit by one. You got to go for it. And
yeah,
it shouldn't affect kind of the way you do things as long as you're not, doing clearly black hat, spam, garbage.
Right.
I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm guilty. I was gonna do a live stream yesterday and I changed my topic. And I was like, I'm just going to talk about something that we don't know none of us know anything about the update that was rolling out, but that's what people want to hear about. And yeah, I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the media. Apparently.
I'm not trying to bag on you at all.
No. As I was doing it, I was like, fuck. Yeah. Like people want to talk about this. So I was like, I actually just read the document that Google published. So I just read that and then gave my thoughts on it, which is largely useless, but people wanted to hear about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you're giving it your effort to create, good content, you shouldn't have a problem. And the people that are going to have a problem, in those more black hat kind of auto-generated content or link spam or, anything like that, they know what they're doing. And, they know what's coming down, and it's usually a churn and burn situation where it's, they're going to keep exploiting the algorithm and they expect to get hit.
Let's move on to content. So are you writing this yourself? Do you have a content team?
Yeah, I started that way. My requirement and set a goal, if you will, was to put out 1 post per day. 1 to 2,000 words, arbitrary number, doesn't really matter. But that's what I set. And then I was like, okay. And if I decide not to write a post, because there's some days where it's like, you're busy, you just can't get to it. Or you're just burning out a little bit, then I would outsource it. And very quickly, I remembered how much I hate writing. I don't like writing at all for being in the content game. So I had to outsource it, and I've done everything under the sun, from content agencies to writing it myself to using code to auto-generate kind of programmatic SEO type stuff with auto-generated content. And then, I've done a lot of Upwork, and Upwork's what I've been doing now and what I've been sticking with. And I realized, there's all of these options out there, but what matters is the system that you build. And that's kind of what I built around Upwork and a few other things to make it so I'm always hiring writers, because writers are going to come, writers are going to go. And I don't have the budget to employ writers full time, which I'd love to do at some point. But, at this point, I'm paying per article. So I have to kind of have a good Rolodex of writers that I can assign content to.
How much are you paying your writers?
So what I do is I start with the interview is super important when you're hiring writers, or interview questions rather. So I'll create a job post in Upwork saying, I talk about the exact niche that I'm in, the blog that I'm in, kind of sell it a little bit, make it enticing. And then you can put in like required questions. So I'll ask, how much do you charge per 1,000 words? Again, that's kind of an arbitrary amount, but it lets them give kind of what they want. And then I also ask them a question about my niche that's hard to Google. So that way you can tell how good are their research skills. Are they kind of just, putting fluff into content, or are they able to figure something out and write, even just 2 sentences, you can kind of tell. So yeah, I'm paying probably on average between, I guess it goes from $15 to $70 per article, which is quite a range, but I assign certain writers certain topics. Some are a lot more difficult to write about and require a little bit of expertise. Some are easy, like those profile articles that I was talking about. But it is surprising. Some of the lowest cost writers that I've found are better than the ones that are $70 to $100 per article. So you just never know. You got to you're testing the writer to see how they do when you throw them that test article. Some are awesome. Some are like, I could pay you an extra $5 or $10, no problem right here. Or, in the future, you could bump them up to kind of retain them. But I always keep the pipeline flowing. I'll put up a new post every 1 to 2 weeks where I'm getting new writers in, sending out new test articles. And then I have a master database or list in Notion of my writers. And I have a notes field, a cost field of how much they are. If they're currently working on an article, I have a checkbox. So I kind of know who do I have available, who's working. And I just keep building that list.
Perfect. And how many writers do you want to have on the roster at a given time? So like you said, you're constantly hiring, which I think is great. That's the nature of freelance contract work. People come and go. So yeah, how many people ideally do you have on the roster?
I would say having at least 5 is good. They all work at different paces and speeds. 5 is kind of like as a minimum to this system that I'm talking about. What I'm trying to get to is where the only kind of choke point is the amount of cash I could inject into this. So the more money I make, I'm putting it all right back into the site. The more writers I could have on that roster, the more content I could push out faster. And then I'm also categorizing the writers based on some other websites that I've been testing out, starting. I call it like preheating the Google oven. So I'll start a couple websites and I'm just throwing up probably 15 to 20 posts just to let Google start building a little trust with them. And, that's been interesting because I see some that are like grabbing traction really quickly. Some aren't. And the issues become apparent. You're like, how am I going to monetize this? And then so about, 9 months, a year in the future or whatever, I could have a few sites that I know are primed and ready to go.
How many articles are on the site currently?
I think it's 125.
Okay. 125. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just under 4 months. So that's over the 1 a day that I've been trying to hit. And that's kind of fluctuated where I'm a little bit behind or I'm a little bit ahead. But again, it's just an arbitrary number, but I feel like doing one a day when I get to a year, and I'm close to 400 articles, it's going to be a good amount of traffic, and I'm going to kind of know where I can take this too.
Cool. And because of the way that you're reinvesting the profits, are most of the articles that you publish kind of new of the 125 and they haven't even aged at all yet? Or like, have you been growing the amount that you're publishing because you have more to invest?
Yes and no. I probably to some degree, but it stayed pretty average at one per day, I would say, or something like that. Like I said, sometimes I get a little behind, and then I do a bunch in a row. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about formatting the content. You talked about writers a little bit. Have you been doing all of the, drafting and adding the links and the subheadings, or do the writers do that? How does that whole process go?
Sure. So that became the next kind of issue that I ran up against for scaling was the formatting, because I would get back, 5 articles, 10 articles at a time, and I'm sitting there in the morning like, oh my God, like this is going to take forever to grind this out. And it's not the most fun, respacing articles, because all the writers have different methodologies, different ways of writing. I'm constantly kind of, training with tips and feedback. But it takes a while to get there to where they're really giving me something I can nearly hit publish on. So I hired a formatter who was one of my writers. And again, kind of tried to build a system around that, like really clear templates in Notion again, where was a checklist of kind of what needed to be done as far as like paragraphs should only be 1 to 3 sentences, so they look good on mobile and, they're good for kind of a blog post, to internal links, kind of showing them how to use, like, they're called Google Dorks or Google Site Operator. So you could search like site:lindyhealth.com, and then the general topic of what that article is, and Google will return links relevant to that keyword that are just my website. So just easy ways for non-SEO people like the formatter to kind of figure that out. And then with the health niche, especially external links, I have to be careful with as far as who am I linking out to about this information. So I only let them use sources that are .edu, .gov, 100% non-commercial sources, which also takes care of not linking to competitors, because any of the real competitors are commercial for me. But yeah, so I've kind of built that out, and I have some of the other writers transitioning to doing the formatting as well. And I just like I was saying, I like to look at this kind of like a whole system where I put cash in at the top that goes to the writers. It gets written, it goes to the formatters who format, gets added to the correct, to the blog, to whether it's Lindy Health or one of the other ones. And then I hit publish. And then my job is keyword research. So, once or twice a week, I'm filling up that content planner with all of the keywords or topics. And then it's also link building, and overall strategy, monetization. I'll go through and, look at the top posts over the last rolling 30 days. And, think about where's the monetization on this post? Can it be affiliate versus just the Google AdSense? And things like that. It's got to be kind of a chess game where you're trying to kind of, build your own little personal army, and direct it in a certain direction, which I guess is business. I wanted to get into all of this because I hated the corporate world and business, right, and a job. And now I'm trying to run this like a project manager, which is funny looking back at, but it's what works.
So, and I like exactly what you did. That's what I've done in the past, where you have a pool of writers. someone is doing a good job, they've worked with you a little longer, they kind of get what you're doing, you can promote them from within, and then it's more variety too, because writing day in and day out, I mean, that's going to get boring. That's why the writers get burned out and they drop off. So you can reward your best writers or people that basically can save you a bunch of time. So I was able to save a huge amount of time. The person that I actually hired to do the formatting and such, they did a better job than me and they did it faster. And it was like a no-brainer to move forward with that. So really like that kind of, train them by writing, work with them a little while and then promote them. And then, it's variety for them. It's like a promotion for them. So,
Yep. Yeah. And then automation too, on the formatting side, I've kind of built into it. Like automations with Photoshop where I have like for images, for example, I have like a nice template that'll have my logo and kind of somewhat of a frame around it with the brand colors. Just little things like that make you look a little more professional, a little more authoritative, I think are important. But I have where the formatter can just grab images and throw them into a folder and run. It's called Bash, but like a Bash script, which is just like a scripting language that works on Mac. And it will add the image to the template, and then will compress the image. And then they go through and rename them, upload them. There's an awesome tool for WordPress, or plugin rather. It's like auto image optimization, where it will strip out the hyphens in the file name of the image and add that as alt text and title automatically. And I'm surprised how much it adds up. The smallest things of like, okay, I need to type in the alt text real quick, or even copy and paste it from the image name into WordPress. That adds up over, 5 to 10 images per article. Or even just having to hit center on the image, in WordPress, you can have it automatically do that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else content wise or formatting wise?
Yeah. Formatting wise, again, with the theme of monetization, I've been looking at where else can I make money, not only from the sites, but also with what I'm doing to run those sites. So recently, me and a buddy have built out a service for the formatting, Formatr Formatr.io. And I'm just using, because it's hard to keep the formatter busy the entire day. We've been kind of selling that as a bit of a service too. So, people get back junk articles, not junk articles, but walls of text, as I'm sure we've all gotten. And they go through internal links, external links, space out the paragraphs, optimization as far as on page. And we've been seeing a bit of success with that. So we'll see where that goes.
Cool. Yeah, we'll link up to that if people are interested. It's one of those things that people should do, but they don't want to let go of it. So, Cody, did you have any trouble letting go of the control of formatting everything?
Yeah, I'm a huge control freak. So, on every step along the way, it's been hard, but it is so much better to have an article live on the website than sitting in a draft. It's doing nothing there. It's every day it's not published. That's another day Google's not building some kind of trust with it, or, it's settling where it should be as far as rankings go. So, for some things, even if they're not perfect or I'm not totally happy with it, I still hit publish and I'll go back and add to it or fix it later. It's all about momentum, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. And once people do let go of control a little bit, they have a little more free time, but people are perfectionists, or they say they're perfectionists, and it's like an excuse to not outsource certain things. So
yeah. And it's crazy what people don't see. You think like, oh, I need this font adjusted, or I need this image a little bit over. People don't see 99% of that stuff. It's yourself looking at it. You've been staring at it too long. Stop staring at it. Hit publish.
Totally. All right, let's talk about link building a little bit here. Have you done much link building? Like, what's your approach?
Yeah, I've done a lot of link building over the years. Less so now, trying to go kind of with this classic big brand authority type of kind of method. But I started the first dollar I made online was reselling logo design from a Fiverr provider that would build, make a logo for $5. And this was way back in the day. And I was sending a bunch of spam links, Web 2.0s, all kinds of garbage. And I ranked for cheap logo design for about 4 days at the top of Google. And that kind of that was part of my kind of start in SEO. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I was kind of always interested in the more gray or black hat areas. But it's not sustainable, obviously, especially these days. It might be doable, but it's definitely not sustainable. So now I've been looking, I have been more of, surprisingly, calculators do really well in the health space. So very specific calculators for like a certain diet, macronutrient calculators, like, so how much of this certain like protein and fat people should be getting, or just different kinds of calculators for different situations. And those rank pretty quickly because not a lot of people kind of build those out. And a lot of people like to link to them. And I thought people always just said that, build something useful and people will link to it, and just kind of assumed it BS. I'm like, that's just too much work. But it was super easy. There's like a plugin for WordPress where you could kind of just put in the math. So I had to just pull out my algebra skills that were not totally there, but it was easy enough to build. And I've seen success with that. I've actually heard it mentioned before. I thought I had come up with it, but no. But the reverse Haro method, I was using that for a while, where I would just ask people for quotes, and that would kind of help twofold. One, I would almost three, I would get authoritative sources talking in an article, especially in the health area. So I get nutritionists or trainers giving their little quote. It's adding content to my articles for free. And then also, people love to share their work. So when it gets published, they share on social. I've been added into a ton of, like, people will have an as seen in or press page on their website, and they'll add me into it because I mentioned them. So that's been cool. And the other thing is, you have to keep your eyes open. I've learned so many cool tricks from actually looking at people that cold email me things, which is just surprising. People think cold email, oh, it's spam, someone just emailing you out of the blue. But some of like the most creative and best marketing is jammed into those emails, if people are able to get some success with that. So someone had emailed me saying, hey, we love your website. We love your business. We would love to do a short interview with you, and my interest has peaked. And, they say, oh, well, we'll provide a link to you, cover your business. I'm like, sounds cool. And, this was fully automated. And they sent me a link to a Google form that I then filled out with my images about my business, answering a few questions, which I did. And then that would auto post onto their website with a link back to me, which, I of course went and shared. So similar to the Haro method. And it created a post for them, that's relevant. It's not necessarily, buyer intent type stuff, but people now, when you search my business, one of those links comes up on, the first 10 results, and they're not writing any content, and I'm linking back in that way. So I built out the same exact process myself. I have a VA collect, every nutritionist from, say, Denver, Chicago, New York, whatever towns. And I use Hunter.io for outreach, but I add all of those emails in there. It sends out an email, saying, hey, we want to cover them. And then comes back, I got the content. Boom, send it back another email saying, if you'd like to share or whatever, here it is. But things like that, I think are great, where you're kind of helping other people, and in turn they help you. Sometimes it feels more nefarious than that, I guess. But I think in the end, it's not. It's just kind of sharing things back and forth.
Got it. Yeah, the reverse Haro methods is pretty cool. I do cover that in my Haro course, but I'm sure if there's other courses out there, it's probably in there too. Because once you get into the mechanics of Haro, it's like, oh, this is another thing I should try anyway. But yeah, it could totally work out, and you end up, in a funny way, if you do put the information for your site, you end up getting a lot of traffic to wherever you direct people. So it's an interesting thing. You don't have to put your website in there, but you're like, hey, it's going to fit in here. There's always rules on Haro, but I did this a couple times, and traffic would spike to certain pages if I was like, your quote's going to go here, something like that.
Yeah, totally. And then I think, a lot of people don't talk about it or don't do it, but as far as, not for this site, necessarily, but test people that are selling links, have some other kind of whatever throwaway projects on the side. It's surprising the quality of links you could find out there. Whether it's in forums or certain marketplaces, 9 out of 10, they're going to be pretty garbage when you see things like niche edits or guest posts or whatever. But I have found some like serious gold in there. And then, from using those on, say these test websites or on tier 2s where it's linking to me, so it's a little bit safer. And then, okay, these links are really good. Then you can kind of send it towards your main site. Is there risk involved with that? Sure. Everyone's going to kind of calculate it themselves. But I just love seeing what happens, trying things out, poking the bear, if you will.
So as we're winding down, are there any mistakes, particularly from this last project, this main website that we're talking about right now? But if you have other fun mistake stories, feel free to share.
Yeah, nothing from this project. It's all been going pretty good. You know what? I will say I'm not 100% happy that I went down the health rabbit hole necessarily because of monetization. Traffic, surprisingly easy to get a hold of, it seems. I'm on track to do 15K organics this month, all from Google, and that's doubling every month so far. Who knows how long that'll continue, but it's a little harder to monetize. I think it's a lot of informational searches versus purchasers, but maybe I just haven't cracked it yet and got to figure that out. And as far as past mistakes, the sitting and waiting, the not doing the action, outside of my Notion kind of management and planning, I use Todoist. You could use a pen and paper, but I have action items every day that I do regardless before I go to bed, whether that's an article, whether that's more keyword research, assigning articles. You got to kind of get that done. And then just a fun story to pepper in there. I think I thrown it into the email I sent to you, but when I had first started and I was kind of, getting involved with this link spam type stuff. And there was some software called GSA, Search Engine Ranker, back in the day, building a lot of low quality crap links, when I was ranking for the cheap logo design and things like that, I woke up one day and I got an email, all caps, notice, server deactivated, something, and I went and read it, and it was from the Canadian federal government, and they had seized all of the servers at this whatever server warehouse data center because of all the spam. Nothing ever came of it outside of that, and I don't think anything was against the law per se outside of Google stuff, and it was probably something else going on, but wasn't happy that morning.
Good grief. Yeah. All those tools were very popular for a little while. And I guess maybe some people still use them a little bit, but
it's how you use them. I think, and most of them are not applicable anymore, but I think it's always kind of been, how do you use these tools?
And how has this success with this website in such a short time period, again, $1,700 in the last 30 days, the site's only 4 months old, how has it impacted your life?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say. I have like a super, part of the reason I cut out the drinking and did the health thing, I just have a super addictive personality and tend to go a little too hard on certain things. And I've kind of redirected that into building, this website, other websites like it. So, is it like, especially with my day job, is it like, oh, I'm making this extra side money? It's not about that necessarily. For me, it's like the game. Like, this is the greatest video game out there, where the points are real dollars, and you're building this team of writers and you're leveling up. So it's a lot of fun. I'm hooked. And it's, I don't know. I probably need to find more of a balance, like a lot of people do, between staring at a computer 18 hours a day and getting outside and running around in the mountains, which I should be doing, living in them. But it's a process.
Right on. Well, you gave a lot of tips and, just general advice, but do you have any other advice, want to put a bow on it or anything like that, or restate anything to help people out replicate the success of this particular site?
Sure. Don't overcomplicate things, and I think a lot of people like reading, a lot of people like listening. I love it personally. I do a lot of road trips, so I'll, sit there and listen to SEO podcasts and stuff like that. But I think instead of reading and trying to find kind of the next hack or trick or whatever, work on your system, build your system. If you're feeling that itch where it's like, yeah, I don't want to write right now or produce content, build that system. And set an arbitrary goal, like article every day, an article every other day. And then see where you land in 4 months, because, I'm pretty surprised at how well it all worked out. Don't overcomplicate things. Do it. Like Nike.
Great advice. So people can, check out the site like we mentioned before, and
lindyhealth.com. And also my kind of template system for Notion is pretty extensive. So I just stripped out kind of the private information and made it into a template, and you can go grab that at the formatting website that I have of Formatr IO. I think they'll throw it in the description, but you can download that template there. And that's something I use every single day for managing 4 websites now, and, pumping out a ton of content. And you can't just hire writers and be sending out orders and getting them back. You really have to have a bird's eye view of the entire board, or else you're going to get lost, overwhelmed, and then get nothing done.
It can be stressful. Yeah. And for people that don't know, what is Notion?
Notion, what would you call Notion? It's kind of a project management, but it could kind of be used for anything. I use it kind of like I think it's called Kanban board, or it's like a Trello board. If you know Trello, I used to use that. Notion's just a little cleaner, but I can, I have topics ready to go. I have what's outsourced. I have what's being optimized. And then in done, it's every article that's published. And then kind of within those cards of, say, an article, I'll have who's the writer that's working on it is a nice drop down box. You just pick whichever writer you have working or writing agency, the word count, and the type of topic. So like best of, or this is informational, or this is a review. And then you can also, there's a field in there for the topic cluster. So I'll set up like topic clusters, whether it's like testosterone replacement therapy, bodybuilding, nutrition, diet. And then you can go in with all these different views and see, okay, I have this much in this topic cluster, this writer's done this much. And it gives you that bird's eye view with that organization.
Got it. Cool. Well, very good. And we'll link up to everything for you, Cody. And thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We'll be, excited to track along and see where the site is in a few months.
Awesome. Yeah, great talking to you, Doug.
Thanks.